Hey, did you know Americans stop or prevent a violent crime 1 to 3 million times per year with a gun? That's right. Studies from Florida State, the CDC, and the Crime Prevention Research Center show that guns are used to protect life 25 times more often than they are used to take a life. That's 25 times. And that estimate is on the low end. And if you believe that good people deserve the best tools to defend themselves and their families, then you should be a member of San Diego County Gun Owners. San Diego County Gun Owners makes it easy to connect with the community that's fighting to defend and restore your Second Amendment rights. Become a member today. It's only $10 a month. Go to sdcgo.org/join.
Gun Owners Radio now provides... Oh,
that's okay.
Did I jump in early?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Gun Owners Radio now provides marketing... We're supposed to be professionals here, Dave.
You're doing fine.
Gun Owners Radio now provides marketing and advertising services. Not only can we help you get in front of the gun owner community, but we can help your business get seen. Websites, SEO, e-commerce, email marketing. Our team can help you connect with your customers. The first 7 people that email get a free website checkup. 3 more slots left. It's a $300 value. Our experts review your website and give you a comprehensive assessment. Email Rich at gunownersradio.com to get the free website audit. I know you know somebody with a website that needs help, so let them know. Have them email Rich at gunownersradio.com, and you could be one of the recipients of a free website checkup. So, also, Magnum interview with Gabe. I always get his name wrong. You interviewed him a couple months ago, Dave. Gabe El Taib, I believe is his last name. Premieres Tuesday at 6 on YouTube. It is a fantastic interview. He is such a fascinating guy. Gabe grew up wanting to work in the comic book world.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that guy?
Great guy.
His dream was to work in the comic book world for a particular creator. And so he was working, I believe it was at DC Comics. Mm-hmm. And finally, and he worked there, and he was living his dream. He was one of the top guys, and he was having a great life. And decided, you know what, this thing's going sideways. They're going way too woke. The things they were doing to some of the classic characters finally pushed him over the edge, especially what they did with the messaging and Superman. He said, forget it, I'm out of here. And he stood up for what he believed in, even though it ruined his dream. So now he's having to live his dream a whole other way. But, that was like 25% of the story. We were on for like 2 hours because he was so fascinating. So listen to Gabe, very thoughtful guy, very well thought out. I enjoyed the fact that his opinions were his. In other words, he didn't just read some article and adopt whatever that person said as if it was their opinion. It was really, really awesome. So anyway, Dave, you remember that interview, don't you?
Yeah, very much so.
Good dude, right?
Great guy. And it was, I think, a segment, and it ended up going.
I think we kept him on for 3.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kept him on the whole time.
Big tower of a man.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy.
He, I watched you guys interview him. I was out of town, and I was actually with my dad, and my dad and I watched that interview, and the whole time I was like, I was so jealous that you guys got to interview him. So we brought him back for this Magnum episode. It turned out really, really great. So what's up, Dave? How you doing, man?
Living the dream.
Dave, have you driven? You drive around a lot, right? You drive around, but you don't just. Do you just drive on freeways, or are you on surface streets? Have you driven on like surface streets and around the city recently?
Well, unless I have a helmet.
It's horrible.
Well, your Jeep, I can imagine your back is out.
It is horrible. I drive around a lot, right? I'm going all in, but not just on freeways. I drive a lot on freeways up into like Orange County.
The streets are terrible.
But driving into Orange County, driving into Inland Empire, and then coming back to San Diego, San Diego is terrible. And I was thinking about it. I'm not a partisan guy. I think that the Republican Party are just as clownish as the Democratic Party. I think they're just two different kinds of clowns. I think the Democrats are the kind of clowns where they all get out of one car in a circus. You know what I mean? And the Republicans are they're like mimes. That's the kind of clowns the Republicans are. So but Democrats took over the city of San Diego a few years ago. Mm-hmm. There are more homeless. There are more drug addicts. Yep. There are more potholes. Yeah. There's more murder.
And you know how much money they have sent to that area alone, just potholes?
How many?
Millions.
Yeah, well,
And I'll give you a better one than that. If you think that's bad, if you go to Detroit or Chicago,
yeah.
I was just there.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can buy wheel insurance.
Wheel insurance.
It's $600, and it'll pay for itself usually within 2 weeks.
Now, where's this? Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
The
at least
potholes are so big.
okay, but at least they have seasons.
Right.
You know, they have
And
snow
that's what's really
and
doing
slush.
it. The seasons, the 6, 10, 12-wheel trucks.
But we don't have that here.
No, we have no excuse.
And when I got to tell you guys, when Republicans were running this town,
I know.
none of that was like this. It is really, really
well,
difficult.
the downside to just in your defense, the downside to the Republicans fixing it
Yeah.
is running out with a truck, slapping some tar on the ground, tamp it down, and leave.
I'll take it.
But then the first car that hits it flips it all out, and you got to
I've been here since 97. You've been here a little bit longer, right, Dave?
79.
Yeah, and I've never seen it this
Terrible,
bad.
and it's worse and worse and worse. And
I've never seen it this bad.
I just looked up to see if there was any recent studies, and just this past July, San Diego was ranked number 8 as the worst infrastructure out of all of America.
with no weather.
Exactly. And if you look at the other areas, number 1 obviously is San Francisco. Not surprised. San Jose's number 2. LA's number 3. Is there a coincidence here of like all these
All in
California?
California.
Exactly.
And this is all across the United States, right?
And what did you just say, Dave? No weather at all to deal with it in the first place. So
I got to tell you, Democrats, hard case to make that anyone should vote for anybody in your party to run any kind of budget, infrastructure, anything like that. I mean, it's just really, really terrible. Anyway, I just had to go on a pothole rant. Alicia, how are you?
Good. I got a rant of my own.
Oh, go for it.
Okay. So back, along the same lines as vehicles, you know
Yeah.
how vehicle manufacturers came up with this great idea of putting like daytime running lights on cars?
Yes.
Am I the only one that's bothered by people that don't get it that those aren't headlights and they drive without their headlights at night, no tail lights, just the
They
Just the
actually,
dark one on the road.
yeah, but you
Yeah.
know the problem with that?
what's that?
The taillights don't light up.
Like, that's exactly my
Right.
point.
So people
And they don't get it.
I haven't noticed that. Oh,
I
now I'm going to see that
I
everywhere.
see it
No,
all
daytime
over the place.
running lights, and
all
that's,
the time.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
And we have Desi. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Fantastic. Welcome to the show. Desi,
Thanks for having me.
the program manager for Not Me SD,
You have any
Correct.
complaints?
and you're here to any complaints.
I don't
pet-
have any
no pet
complaints, but I have a question for you, Dave. How long have you been supporting San Diego County gun owners? Just
Ever
in
since-
general.
How long have you been doing
7
it?
years.
7 years. And you're a big supporter of us. You've been around with us for a while.
Yeah.
Well, here is a really cool gift that we have been giving to all of our long-term supporters, which is this awesome little bullet pin that even comes in this little gun case that we wanted
That
to
is
give you
so
today.
thank
These
you,
are
dear.
rare, and these are only for elite supporters of
Wow,
ours.
that's gorgeous.
That's you, an elite supporter.
I
Yep.
will put that. I know exactly where that's going to go, and no one else is going to use it.
Well, thank you for supporting us and all of the help that you do.
Well, give me some of your business cards. I'm not
I will give
done.
you some before I leave. Don't you worry.
And Desi, you have a big announcement right after.
After the break?
Thank you.
Yeah, I've actually got a double big announcement today. Stay tuned.
Hey, if you own a gun in California, you should have an attorney that specializes in California gun laws on your speed dial. Because if you ever have legal matters that involve firearms, you need California firearms lawyer John Dillon. If you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Our trusted firearms attorney John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Put his number on your phone right this second, 760-642-7150. That's John Dillon, California firearms lawyer, 760-642-7150.
So to kick off the interview with Desi and her major announcements, I just got a this is a very timely and topical message I got, Desi, from Deanna.
Oh, I like Deanna. Deanna Hayes?
I don't
It's
remember
okay.
her last name.
All right. It's all good.
Anyway, she wrote and said, "Happy Labor Day weekend. I received my CCW permit in the mail this past week. Thank you again for helping me. I will feel so much safer now shooting photos at," it is Deanna Hayes, shooting photos at night. Deanna is a photographer, single woman photographer, and she goes out at night. She does a lot of moons. In fact, like once a week, you know how in KUSI they show a picture when they do the weather? Like once a week, it's her. They're always using her photos, and she's just an independent photographer, but she goes out at night with expensive equipment by herself. She's, single woman, and boom, now she's safe thanks to Not Me. So I wanted to read that to you on the air.
Thanks, Mike.
As evidence of the fantastic work you do as the program director for Not Me SD. So how you doing?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So talk about Not Me SD and how do you want to lay this out? We got a couple of segments.
Yeah, we got a couple of segments.
So let's build the suspense.
We're going to build the momentum and the suspense for what we're going to announce today. Because again, it's going to be a double whammy, not just one that I had promised.
So what we should do? We should make the announcement right at the end of the segment. So let's all
like a little teaser.
Yeah, let's sit quietly for 10 minutes until the end of the segment, and then we'll make the announcement. Really build the suspense.
So we're going to build the suspense. We're talking about some history. We'll kind of fill the time. So
that's a better idea.
Let's talk about the history of Not Me SD. So Not Me SD was founded back in 2019 and was San Diego County gun owners' response to help combat sexual assault and domestic violence in San Diego.
Exactly. You want to hear this specifically, how that actually happened?
Of course, Mike. This was your founding.
I read an article. I was reading an article. People send me anti-gun articles all the time, pro-gun articles too. But they're I get a lot of, look at this article, oh my gosh, and honestly, I can't read them all, but this one in particular really stuck with me. And they were talking about the spike in domestic violence, sexual assault. And it talked about California. It talked about San Diego. I really wish I'd have kept this article because I'll search for it now. I can't find it. But it was a thinly veiled blame on gun owners.
Of course.
It was actually even kind of a thinly veiled blame on generally people on the political right, which I thought was ridiculous. But it was definitely a poke at gun owners. And I thought, okay, we got to do something. We got to do something because we're not the problem. We're the solution. And so I decided, all right, and came up with this idea of doing exactly what we do. And that's where it came from.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, Mike, so 93% of sexual assaults are women, right? 63% of sexual assaults go unreported for fear of retaliation and or their partner. 1 in 3 women will be a victim of sexual assault involving physical contact at some point in their lifetime. And Mike, in 8 out of 10 cases, the woman knew the individual who sexually assaulted her.
1 in 3 women.
1 in 3 women.
In their lifetime.
Isn't those crazy statistics?
It's crazy. 1 in 3 women in the United States. Is that where I think it's the United States, right?
United States.
That's crazy.
And if you think about it right now, too, I mean, police response times are on an all-time high because they just can't keep enough staffing. And so if you're in danger, like your life is in danger, priority 1 call, it's a 50-minute response time right now.
50 minutes.
50 minutes.
That's a lot of minutes.
That's a lot of minutes. A lot can happen in 5 minutes, let alone 50 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
So getting back to the history of Not Me, I mean, I love these, statistics and the way we can kind of talk about how it founded. So I want to kind of talk about how I came into the picture. So Mike, I don't know if you remember when I met you. It was at a barbecue, actually at Gunfighter Tactical about 4 years ago.
All right.
Haiti introduced me to you and Wendy,
Yeah.
and you guys started talking about this amazing program. You're like, hey, do you want to start volunteering with us? And I was like, yeah, sure, great. So I actually started off as a volunteer. I think it was end of 2019 was when I started volunteering. And then early 2020, you guys saw that there was a need for someone to kind of take a bigger role within the Not Me SD program, and you knew the skills that I possessed and how amazing I was. So,
well, let's talk about that for a second. It wasn't that we saw a need; we were inundated.
Right.
We had no idea when we did the press conference in April of
2019.
2019. Yeah, that sounds about right. And I remember thinking, okay, we're gonna do this press conference. And if we get a dozen responses, that'll be a good day.
You got 150.
Yeah, we got 150.
150.
And we were in it that first year. My apologies to those first 150 women. They did not get the experience, I think it was actually more.
Yeah.
They did not get the experience that you provided. So we were in dire need of someone to help with the program. It was that popular and that we were that inundated. So it was about a year into it.
Yep. And I came in about early 2020. And when I came in and took over and helped taking, a larger role within the organization, we had 200 applicants that were in the queue. There was 150 in the backlog, which means these 150 women hadn't been reached out to in over a year. And so when I came in, like I really had to streamline the process and kind of restructure everything so there was a lot more streamlined to the program, right? And so my goal was first to get rid of that backlog. I mean, to me, that backlog kind of was just sitting there and it just kept taunting at me. It was like, look, there's 150 women that need your help. And so my goal was to get rid of that backlog so we could start helping current people. And so within 6 months, you remember this, Mike, within 6 months, we got that backlog gone, right? So then everything that came through was current. So again, this is early 2020 that we had, let's just say 200 applicants. So with each 100, applicant milestone, we kept getting closer and closer and we kept building the momentum for this. Now, we don't pay for advertising for Not Me SD, right? A lot of the way we get all of our applicants is through word of mouth, of course.
Yep.
So people hear they had a great experience. I've been going on KUSI a lot, and that's
earned
been
media.
Earned media
is very effective.
Very effective. And then, of course, through our shooting socials. So a lot of times when we're at our shooting socials, 75% of the individuals that are there are women. And so
I think another huge percentage is Dave Stahl.
Exactly.
Dave Stahl is a big promoter of us, and he definitely loves the organization.
I was walking by. I got here early, and I was walking by. He was doing his show, his car show, and he had a guest on. He's not in the room, but he had a guest on. And then I'm walking by, and I heard him pitching to her. Not me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's a machine.
He's awesome.
Dave identifies as an ambassador. He's just, he puts on a wig every now and then, and so he identifies as an ambassador when he wants to. So, and the one thing I also love too is we hear a lot about this at our tabletops, right? So we have a lot of great volunteers that are always talking about this at tabletops. So they'll see women walking out of the gun range and, mention the program. And that's a really great way that we both get applicants and ambassadors like Alicia, because the program's not possible unless I have volunteers, kind of helping in the day-to-day. And Mike, the individual that you were talking about earlier, Deanna.
Yep.
So Alicia actually helped her, and
worked with her.
Deanna.
Oh, yeah.
She's a great shot, by the way, so watch out.
Yeah, I wouldn't
All right.
mess with her.
All right.
But Deanna is one of the ones we've sponsored through the program. So we came up with the 501c3,
Yep.
right? Not
Well,
me,
she's
CA.
She's a photographer. That's probably why she shoots so well.
Yeah. But
Yes, we came up with the 5-1. Well, what was happening was we wanted to make sure that everybody that goes through the program, the program is free,
right.
but the guns, still
Guns
cost.
are expensive.
Training is expensive.
You're expensive, Alicia?
I'm a little pricey.
Well worth every penny, but
Yep.
still. But here's what was going on. We were having to go back to the trainers, hey, can you give us something for free? Hey, can you give us a discount?
Right.
And it's just not fair. So two things weren't fair. Number one, it wasn't fair that the instructors were the only ones sacrificing. They were the only ones that were giving up, free whatever, free this, free that. Actually, they weren't the only ones. And then the other ones were the shops.
Yep.
The shops were giving up. Like, hey, they sell this inventory to put bread on their table.
Yep.
I mean, that's, So, and then the third thing that wasn't really all that fair was that people were contributing to San Diego County gun owners for a political purpose. And then, we were supporting the program, which is great, but we were supporting that program. We realized, you know what? This is actually a charitable act. This is something that betters the community. So people who want to support this program could be getting a tax benefit.
Right.
And so that's the part that really wasn't fair, right? So we wanted to take the pressure off the shops. We wanted to take the pressure off the generosity of the instructors, and we wanted to give donors an advantage by giving them a tax benefit. So we opened up the 501c3, which is a charity.
Which is a charity, and has been very successful in helping support these individuals that can't afford to buy a gun, buy training, or pay for their CCW, because the process isn't cheap, Mike. You know that. You and I both, and Alicia, have our CCWs, and so purchasing firearms, even the ammo and the training aspect, there's a lot of components that come into getting your CCW to be able to protect yourself, and a lot of individuals can't afford that. I mean, look at the economy. It's really rough right now. Like, inflation's at an all-time high, and so people just can't afford it, and so we never want money to be a reason why someone can't protect themselves.
Well, let's run through real quick.
Let me just jump
Yes.
in, just a clarification.
You like to wear your wig?
No, but on certain occasions, when you run into a young lady that's financially strapped, have there not been occasions where you will purchase a gun for someone?
We will. That's what
what
we're talking about.
the charity donations go
That's
towards
why-
Okay,
that.
I just wanted to make sure I clarified it.
But
'cause
let's run through this though real quick. How much is a gun?
Say $700.
$700. Okay.
Give or take?
Give or take. Let's
Yeah,
say
fees and dross and
Yeah.
Okay, so
all that stuff.
800.
so $700. Okay, let's just say $700. How much is a CCW?
what, $250
But
right now?
I believe it's
200,
around. It's about $250. I believe that
$250.
you pay to the
$250.
sheriff's department.
So now we're up to $950. Okay.
Plus.
How much is a class?
8-hour class would be about $200.
They start at $200 and go up from there depending on where you go.
So at least $1,150. So we're up to $1,150.
Correct.
Just for a gun, just for a CCW, and just for
A class.
a class. Now, how much is a holster?
Let's just say
want a
$75
good
to
one?
$100. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So $75, $100. We're up to like
Ammo.
what, $1,250. Ammo. We're definitely up to $1,300, right? And then you can't just take one class.
Now you have to take multiple classes.
You know, so I would say, so really, if you like starting from scratch, a woman says, "Hey, I want to be able to defend myself." You know, what do I got to do? Well, you got to spend like $2,000,
Yep.
and that's why that's that kind of funding is what we're looking for. Now, not every woman that goes through the program do we spend $2,000, but so there's a big announcement, right? Do we do it on the other side of the break?
We're going to do it on the other side of the break.
You're gonna
Let's-
have to.
Let's
All
leave them hanging.
Know how I feel about our current government and financial system, so it's no secret I'm a big believer in diversifying your money with precious metal like gold and silver. But when it comes to buying precious metal, you need the right company in your corner. That's why we've partnered with the top-rated precious metal company, GoldCo, because reputation matters. GoldCo is a 6 times Inc. 5000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year, and they've helped people like you and me place over $2 billion in gold and silver. And right now they're offering gun owner radio supporters up to $10,000 in bonus silver when opening a qualified IRA account. This is your opportunity to protect yourself from our out-of-control corrupt government. Don't pass it up. Grab your phone today and give GoldCo a call. Take action today so you don't regret it tomorrow. Call GoldCo at 855-612-6354. That's 855-612-6354. And tell them you heard about it right here on Gun Owners Radio.
Yeah, we talk about all kinds of metal: gold, silver, copper, lead,
Brass.
brass. We're all about metal. We're a metal show. All right, so Desi, so we set up a bunch of context here.
We did.
You came in and saved the day after we set
I
up a
saved the
program
day.
for women.
Yep.
We
Rode in on my white horse.
That's right.
Saved the day.
It's expensive, as everyone knows. I mean, you start
Yep.
from scratch. It's expensive to effectively be able to defend yourself. Not only have the tools, but have the knowledge and have the
Courage to protect
permit.
yourself.
Yep, all that other good stuff.
Yep.
And so we talked about that. We talked about how we set up the charity to support the program.
Mm-hmm.
So continue.
Continue. All right, so let's talk about the evolution of Not Me SD over the last couple of years. So what I've seen is a change in the amount of women and who actually apply to Not Me SD. So originally when we first started, I saw a lot of women, of course, who were victims of domestic violence and sexual assault that were reaching out to us looking for help. But what we also see, and have come to see a lot over the years, is women just want to start somewhere and they don't know where to start. And so as you know, being a new gun owner, the biggest hurdle is trying to figure out, where do I go to buy a gun? What kind of questions do I ask? And so a lot of women didn't know where to start. And so when they saw Not Me SD and what we offer, would sign up, because now they actually have someone kind of holding their hand through the program so they can help them answer those questions and guide them along their firearms journey. Mike, you know that we get one shot to get a new shooter, right?
Right.
Once they walk into a shop, if they had bad experience, they're going to walk out.
Right.
But if they have someone that's there with them to hold their hand through the process, it's going to be a much better experience. And as you know, when you walk into a gun shop, 9 out of 10 times behind the counter, it's a man. And the way men, I hate to say it, talk to women, it's a little bit differently about firearms, because what's good for me might not be good for you or good for Dave. So we need to know how to kind of balance those conversations. And so as we've seen the evolution of Not Me SD, we've evolved into really just kind of being a great resource, of course, for women who are looking for help getting firearms. That's our concentration, and I love it. And we've also kind of expanded into offering other types of classes. So we have a lot of resources at these different ranges, right? Like Alicia's done a pepper spray and situational awareness class for us. We've done a Stop the Bleed. And so we really want to be able to empower women with more tools to protect themselves, firearms being our focus, of course. But if we can utilize our resources at these different ranges and offer them at a discount, right? Like I'm never asking anybody to 100% donate their time, but if they can offer to us at a discounted rate so it's more affordable for people, that's what people like to see in the Not Me SD program.
Nice. What's the most common? Is there like what's the most common question or concern? Or, you know what I mean? Like when you talk to women, when they come to us or when they reach out or whatever, what's the most common, like, hey, this is what I need?
What kind of gun do I buy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
They all
That's
ask
the,
that.
that's what I was thinking.
I was going to say,
That's
that's
what
the
I get.
most common question is, what gun do I buy? And that's why our shooting socials are such a great introduction, because you don't have to have a gun ahead of time, right? Like, we do everything for you. And so it's a great way for them to come in and shoot different types of firearms just to figure out what they want.
I think that's you know what that is? That's kind of the difference between someone who goes into it as a hobby or an interest. Yeah, they grew up on comic books and 80s movies or whatever. And
Right.
Because I knew the gun I was going to buy first. Like, there was no question. It
What
was
was
just
it?
Glock 19. I knew I was going to go Glock 19. There was no question. And then and that was 1997. And I, spent a couple of years. I just turned 21. Spent a couple of years. Knew this guy who had one. Read The Punisher. Whatever. I knew it was going to be a Glock 19. But people, men or women, who think to themselves, they come at it more as a utility. Like, hey, I need to defend myself. Their first question is usually,
What kind of gun do I buy?
What do I buy? Like,
Yep.
I need to defend myself. Which gun is that?
And everybody's response is going to be different. What I say could be completely different than what you say, than what Dave's going to say, and what Alicia's going to say. So you're going to get 4 different answers. And so you always want to shoot your gun before you buy it. So that way you can make sure you can handle the recoil, if it's comfortable in your hand, and you can shoot it accurately.
But I think that difference also speaks to part of the success of Not Me.
Correct.
In that, for years, I watched men say, oh, look, just show them it's fun and make it pink. And then women
Make
will,
mine teal.
or, I don't know any.
Shrink it and pink it.
Yeah, pink it and pink it.
I don't know any women who are out there going, gosh, I don't really have a lot on my plate. Sure could use more hobbies. Like, that's not, you know what I mean?
Gun hobbies are fun hobbies.
You know what a lot of women come to me with when they didn't know what to buy and they let someone.
They say their
buy it for
husband let them buy it.
A revolver.
Yeah, they come up with a
big old
revolver.
350
They
or
do. They come
whatever.
up with a revolver. So the concept and the idea of a semi-automatic is a little bit overwhelming when
Yeah.
you don't understand it. And so they think, less moving parts.
They
You know,
can't
a
rack
revolver,
it. They
revolver.
can't
rack it. Right.
Sometimes they can't.
Can't rack it.
A revolver can be a great fit for some people, but it's not for everybody. And they just come in not knowing anything, and that's what they come in with. And
So a woman calls up and says, what do I buy? What do you do?
There's so many different questions that you can ask. And that's one thing about having a great ambassador is they're very knowledgeable and knowing what kind of questions to ask. It's like, do you want it for home defense? Do you want it for self-defense? I always ask kind of like their size. Like, are they tall like me? Because what I like might be a little bit different than someone that's a little bit shorter than me because my hands are a little bit bigger, right? So there's so many questions that go into helping them figure out what kind of gun they want for the reasons, etc. But then getting them to a range so they can shoot it is kind of like number one priority. And we talk about number one priority, so kind of like how we were talking about the buildup, right, in the last couple of years. So every 100 was a new milestone for us, right? So we started with 200, then we went to 3, we got to 5, we got to 7, we got to 8. And then at about 6 months ago, we got to 900.
Oh.
I know. So I was like, well, we've got gun prom coming up. So is there any way that I can get to 1,000 by gun prom? Because that would be such a cool announcement. We'd be able to say we have 1,000 at gun prom.
Well, now gun prom is just a week from, say, it's like 2 weeks away.
I know.
So how are we doing? Do we need a drum roll?
Can we get a drum roll?
We can
Is
get
there
a
a
drum
drum
roll.
roll?
If he's listening.
He's not listening. It's
Brendan.
okay. So
you're taking a nap.
a
baby's
month
napping.
ago,
Yeah.
we had our first of 2 milestones. So we
Okay,
hit
go for it.
1,000 applicants for Not Me SD.
1,000 applicants for Not Me SD.
1,000 applicants.
Applicants mean those are women
Who have applied to the program saying, I want help buying a gun, I want help finding an instructor, and I want help getting my CCW. That was a huge milestone for us.
Yes,
Huge
congratulations.
milestone.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Now, as we kind of look, it's been about 30 days since we hit that milestone. Yep. Since then, I've been on KSI promoting it, of course, and we've been talking about it a lot and kind of, talking about this huge milestone. And so we've been getting a lot more inquiries. And as I started to see these, of course, we usually have a good ratio between open to closed cases. And as I was kind of going through them over the weekend, I started looking at the number of closed inquiries going up, and it started getting closer and closer to being at that 1,000 closed cases. So
I'm on the edge of my seat.
you should be on the edge of your seat at this point because this is going to be
What's going to
huge.
happen?
What's happened is we've now had
We're gonna take a
1,000 applicants go through the program. That means we have
Nice.
helped 1,000 women purchase a gun, find an instructor, or apply and get their CCW. So that is 1,000 more women in San Diego that are now safer because of Not Me SD.
1,000 women since when did we
That's
start
awesome.
it? 2000?
2019.
So what are you doing now? Where's 1,500?
That's our next
We're
milestone.
done with 1,000. Let's move
But
on.
but
I mean-
honestly, So it was 2019, but again, that first year.
That first year was rough.
It was rough.
It was rough.
I was there the first year.
She was there the first year.
Maintain. So really, it's since 2020. It's really 3 years, 1,000 women.
1,000 women.
So congratulations.
1,000 women we have armed and empowered with the tools to protect themselves.
Nice.
But our work is here has just begun, Mike. You know
Yes,
that. There's
I do.
3.5 million people in San Diego, and let's say half of those identify as women. So there's still a lot of women out there who need our help. Not all of those women out there are gun owners like Alicia and myself. And so we want to empower as many women as we can with the tools to protect themselves, because if I can help just one more person, that's one more person that's safer because of Not Me SD and the work that we do.
Amen.
So let me ask you a question. What if I because I think I just did today when I contacted a lady that was on the show, on my motorsports show, and she already shoots. And I told her, the ace in the hole was, I said, would you like to get a CCW? And she says, well, it's way too difficult. I said,
Not too difficult.
I said, well, that's where you're wrong.
Not difficult enough.
Right. I said, what you
True.
need. What you need to do is hook up with this group. Yada 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 yada.
Yeah.
So I think the key to this is getting the word out,
Correct.
and that's the hard part.
It is the hard part. I mean, I can only go on KUSI so much and let Tommy let me talk about
what about 8, 10, 39 and Fox?
We
Have
haven't
you reached out to
we
them?
haven't reached out to them.
So that's what I would do. I would reach out, and now that KUSI,
Is underneath the Fox umbrella.
well, it's actually North Nexstar, and Nexstar, it comes out. CW6 is coming into the building.
Right.
It's going to be a while because they're going to gut the place and redo it. So, but I would just go to their websites. There's always a planner on
Right.
there. If you have an idea.
If you have an idea or something you want to promote.
And I would, because that's what I would do. I think once you get to those other stations, and yeah, you might say they're more liberal, but you'd be surprised how many liberal ladies would like to have
like
a
to
gun.
have a firearm, right? And you don't have to go through the full program with Not Me SD.
No,
Like Dave. So to your point, because your friend already has a gun, if she just wants to learn how to apply for a CCW,
Right.
I do virtual CCW courses every 2 months where we actually walk women through the process on how to apply for your CCW. So I'm breaking that perception of it's too difficult, I can't get my CCW. So even if they already own a firearm, they're just looking for additional resources. We have those resources at our fingertips, and
Right.
we are here to recommend that so that way they have them.
So you'll get a kick out of this. They just got married 7 years ago, and he made this big deal. She had to go through all these boxes to get to the wedding ring. So she did kind of the same thing, but for her gift was gun training for her husband,
That's awesome.
which I thought it was too. So I'm just saying, just got to work on getting on the websites and
That's the other thing, Dave. Is I don't know. Maybe she's done a ton of training, but just because she's owned a gun.
Oh no. She even said she needs more training.
Yeah. So even if you've owned a gun for 5-10 years or whatever, I'll bet you haven't taken enough training. And if
guaranteed.
you need
Train,
more
train, and
training,
train some more.
You need more CCW, or you need a CCW. You need some more training. Go through Not Me. So it's not just for people who
No, I
don't
agree.
have a gun.
And I would, but she never gives me any cards like you do.
Oh, I was
give
like,
you a
I give
card.
you plenty of cards.
I know. I've already burned through them.
Well, congratulations, Desi.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Great news.
Are you going to be at Gun Prom to talk more about this?
I might be. Let me check my schedule.
You better be.
You need to
You
wear.
hesitated. I just got nervous.
You need to wear a placard. One of those things on the
That says
back,
1,000.
Hey,
A banner.
let
A
me,
banner?
Let me tell
A
you
sash.
how to get a CCW for free.
I'd rather just wear a
Sash.
pretty
That would
dress.
be hilarious.
I'd rather
That's
just
not
wear
a bad
pretty
idea.
dress.
No.
It is a prom.
No, I'm not wearing a sash that says 1,000 in
No,
gun
not
prom.
a sash. A cardboard
Nope,
back and
nope.
front.
It's gonna take away from the prettiness of my dress.
Hey, what's more important?
My dress.
Dave.
Her and
It's like Dave just met a woman for the first time right now.
Aw, you're so cute, Dave.
Well, what we'll do? Okay, then we need to find some girl that can wear a placard on the front and the back. Ask me how to get a free CCW.
And don't
I'll
forget
make an ambassador do it.
And wear some sensible shoes that night, will you?
Hey, have you ever wanted to get a pilot's license? Well, here in San Diego, pilots can fly almost every day, which makes San Diego one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly with San Diego Flight Training International. Check out the deals just for gun owner radio listeners. 1 hour of ground school, 1 hour of flight with an instructor. Yes, you get to fly. Normally $400, but for listeners, $350. Get started is easy. Then call 858-569-1822. Learn to fly SDFTI. That's 858-569-1822.
All right, Dave, I have something for you.
There you go. Oh, good. 1 business card. Ooh. 2. Excuse me, I was totally mistaken. I'll call you when I need more.
All right.
All right.
Nice card, though.
Yeah, it is a nice card. Did you do that?
Yeah,
Something.
It's a Vista.
It's like American Psycho. Remember on American Psycho, the movie where they were comparing business cards?
Oh, yeah, it's got the laminate. Look at my corners.
All right, our next segment, we have a curtain call.
The latest news stories,
Insightful
perspectives. It's time for Curtain Call.
I love that. I have
So
this,
cute.
I have
You
this
got
image,
fancy.
I have this image of Brendan when he was recording it. He had like a little bullhorn, you know? He'd say, the latest news, and then put the bullhorn in front. The latest news. Anyway.
Super
Awesome
cute.
job, Brendan. I really like that. Okay, so go for it. What is your curtain call?
So we have a story out of Chicago, and it's a story about a woman who was in her vehicle, and get this, she has a CCW. Now, Chicago, I didn't think that Chicago was issuing.
I didn't think so either.
I don't know this.
Chicago's issuing? I think
I'm questioning that. I didn't believe that they were.
Chicago's been forced to do a lot of things lately.
Okay.
I mean, they were pretty much a gun-free zone. They were a gun-free
Right.
zone for years. They were forced to let gun shops come in. They were forced to let people buy guns. And now, since Bruin, they've been forced to issue.
Gotcha.
So, the other thing is, she may have lived in a suburb of Chicago and then gone into Chicago.
Gotcha.
Because
Could be.
the surrounding suburb, just like all over the place, the surrounding
It's by the county.
yeah, but the counties kind of surrounding the downtown are a little bit more gun friendly than the, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then they get rural and everything. Anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that was the first thing that stuck out to me. So here's the thing. So the plot is that she was in her vehicle, parked along the curb in Chicago. Now, you know that saying of, I don't know, I'm not sure who coined it first, if it was John Correa or if it was,
Right.
there's a lot of people that put it, don't go stupid places at
yeah.
stupid times, with stupid people doing stupid things, right? So here she was in Chicago, which is, we already know, is the safest city in all of America,
So
right?
safe.
Right. So she was in a not great area, but, we don't know the circumstances, and it was 2 a.m., so that's another tick mark in the unfortunate box.
Where's she going at 2 a.m. in Chicago?
She's
but
getting
anyway,
back from the club.
She's getting a Subway.
Article did not state.
she's getting
I'm
something
assuming
to
she's
say.
getting back from the club.
Okay, I mean that's fine, I guess.
Right,
but
stuff happens. We don't know. Maybe she just is working. Who knows? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know the circumstances behind why she was where she was. But she was.
and the reality
Chicago.
is, we should be able to go anywhere we want, anytime we
Absolutely.
want, whether we're a man, woman,
Absolutely.
whatever. But anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely. So 2 a.m., Chicago, on the curb, sitting in her car. So what is the number one thing that we say, Desi, about keeping women safe? What do we not want to do?
Sit in your car at 2 a.m.
Absolutely. So she's not paying attention to the world around her. She was
She's
sitting in her
not being
vehicle.
situationally aware.
Exactly. So she was sitting in her vehicle at 2 a.m. and they're in Chicago. And lo and behold, I don't even want to say gentlemen, 4 men get out of a nearby vehicle, see her sitting there. What do they see? It was a woman sitting in her car. Makes a
Easy
great
target.
Absolutely. So they approach her, and one puts a gun right in her face. They are there to carjack her. They want her vehicle.
Jeez.
So gun at her face. She sees it, and she had the wherewithal to observe and notice that. I'm thankful for that. She did draw her weapon. She was a concealed carry permit holder there in Chicago. She did have her firearm on her, which is big, because that's the thing too. A lot of people have their, a lot more people are getting their permit, but how many of them are actually carrying every day and carrying everywhere that they go? So that's a big point too. So she pulled it, she drew, and she fired. Now think about this. If you know anything about physics, you know anything about bullets going through windows, you know that the trajectory is going to change. So it doesn't tell us how many rounds she got off, but it does tell us that she hit that gentleman in the head.
Well, it doesn't tell you what kind of car it is because
doesn't.
the windows are laminated with soundproofing. So,
Yeah, didn't state or clarify.
So she took him out.
She did. She hit him in the head. So when someone's in your face with a gun, what are you going to see? You
What
might
the
see
other
some.
three do?
So the other 3. So here's the thing. So she made that shot. She got it off. He dropped. She got out of that vehicle and booked it and ran. One of the other 3 also had a firearm and drew and fought and shot and hit her in the arm as she was running away. So the one man that she hit, of course, he went down. He didn't make it. The other 3 ran. Didn't stick around to help their buddy. Great friends, right? So they were gone. They were never caught. And so one of them did. She was hit, but she obviously recovered.
Lived, yeah.
And yep, she lived. So here's the thing. Think about this. In the situation of being carjacked, right? And if you talk to people about from a defensive standpoint, from self-defense, you talk to 10 different people, you're going to probably get 5 people that tell you to fight for your life, You're going to get 5 other people that tell you, give up whatever they want so that you can walk away, and hope that you, by you complying, that they let you go and they don't take it any further. So she had some options. She could have just simply given the keys over and walked and had a chance of walking away. They might or might not have let her walk away. That's the thing. She had a gun pointed in her face. Now, was it loaded?
Who knows?
Who knows, right? You know, Dave, you have a firearm pointed at you with somebody with some bad intent. What are you going to do?
I'm carrying.
Ask.
Does that have bullets in it?
That
See,
loaded.
all of this really makes no difference until it actually happens to you.
Right.
Because we can sit here and say, oh, well, I would do this or I would do that. Why would she run? I would do that. No.
Right.
None of it makes a hill of beans until it actually happens.
Absolutely.
And your natural training and reaction kick in. If you're not trained, there's a good chance you're not going to make it.
Absolutely.
If you're trained, you have a far better chance
You have a fighting chance.
of not only surviving, but putting a little guy on the side of your door that you can, like a
Is that the new tattoo?
Like a little
like a fighter
tally?
plane, like a fighter plane. You know how they put the swastikas,
Oh, yeah.
take down a German plane.
I could just put some on there anyways and just be like, don't mess with me.
That's even a better idea.
Right?
Yeah, I like that. But I mean, but it is interesting because then you think to yourself, well, what would I do? Like, what would you do?
So there's a thing too. So she's sitting in her vehicle. Here's some questions that I had that went through my head. One is, did she have her keys? Were they possibly in the ignition? Mm-hmm. A getaway opportunity could be just simply flooring it and going. Maybe her keys were already packed in her purse. They weren't accessible. Maybe she didn't think about it. There's a lot of things to consider.
Maybe she didn't have a key. Maybe it was a fob and it was in her purse or in the center car.
That could be
there's
too.
a million
There's
options.
so many
But
variables.
You're right. Do you hit the gas and go?
Right.
Would they get in a car and come after you?
Where they shoot you
as you're driving away?
as you're driving
Right.
away.
Which is even worse.
Right.
There's no good. This is really a no-win, especially
No,
for
it's
people.
huge.
If it was a single carjacker and you feel like
That's a different
that
story.
you're not drawing from the drop, right, and you feel like you have and you have a chance, right? These were 4 guys. She saw one gun, as the article claims.
Well,
It
she took care of
doesn't
that
mention that
first.
she saw any of the other 3. What's that?
I say she took care of that
Yeah,
situation.
right. You take care of the threat that you see,
And
right?
whatever comes up. But I was surprised when you said she got out and started running.
I was surprised when I read that as well.
I was surprised.
I-
Well, I think
yeah.
I told you this story. A buddy of mine went to 7-Eleven, got a soda, gets in his Jeep, guy comes up with a knife and sticks it in the window. So he pulls out his pistol, his 9mm, and the guy goes, oh, and ran. So, I mean, and he's such a calm, cool, and collected dude anyway. I mean, he would never have shot him, but yeah, so but yeah, I was real surprised he ran. Yeah, that's the last thing I'd do.
I agree. I was thinking that same thing. And to your point, you never know how you're going to react until you're put into
in
that
that situation.
So
That's
when
it.
did this happen?
It was earlier this year, I
Wow.
believe. Yeah.
So you can imagine if
How-
Schwartz did it,
how's she-
he'd just
well-
sit there and start crying.
I wouldn't be ashamed. Not one. I wouldn't be
Cry like a
ashamed.
baby.
I mean, that's a devastating thing. I mean, this woman
Yeah.
lived.
She lived.
Even
She's got to live
let's
through it for the rest of her life.
the rest of her life, she has to live through the fact that she had to shoot somebody.
And took him out.
And
I apologize really quickly. It was late last year, not this year. Late
so
last
does
year.
it say she's doing okay then? She's all
Yep,
right?
She is okay. Yep.
She's in mental therapy, though, working on the trauma that she's experienced.
I wouldn't doubt
I
it.
bet
I
she's
wouldn't
still
either.
carrying
How old
him.
is she?
I would be too.
Does not give an age. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. 23 years old.
Wow,
she
she's
was
a
young.
youngster.
She was
old.
young.
I thought you
And
were
here we
good at
go.
that.
I don't know Chicago by any means. However, we do have a neighborhood. So maybe if you
Okay.
Chicagoans.
All right.
So this happened in the 1300 block of East 89th Street in the Calamute Heights neighborhood. If that,
That doesn't
means
sound
anything to
good.
anybody.
That doesn't sound like
That
a
didn't
good
sound like a
neighborhood.
great neighborhood.
It says,
So 23 years old. So she went to the effort. She got a permit at 23. Now we don't know. I don't know
how long has she
how.
has she had a permit?
It doesn't give us that
Yeah,
information.
but you know what I'm
right,
saying.
right.
There's so many
There's so many variables. So, but the fact that 23 honestly is a little bit young, and as far as the average CCW holder
know how to
age,
react
most
in
people
that way.
don't have the wherewithal to kind of think, hey, maybe I should do this. I need to do it until they're a little bit
Most
older.
people would be so scared they forgot they even had a gun.
Right.
That's true. That's true. Absolutely.
I mean, if it's a new CCW holder, they may completely.
so I commend
freeze.
her. I commend her. Huge cojones, right? Huge. She did what she needed to do, and she did. She made the choice
All
to
right,
run,
well, here's the kicker.
and she survived. That's the
But
most
did
critical
she
thing.
get prosecuted?
In California, she would have for sure.
No doubt.
There's
But she could in Chicago. But she could in Chicago too.
Yep. I
I
mean,
mean, look at-
Chicago's very
Well,
anti-gun
look
too.
at the look at the ones that caned that one guy that broke into their liquor store, and these guys just beat him with a stick, and now they're going after him.
Of course.
And yet he let him go. He says, don't ever come in my store again, and let the guy go. So, but yet they're going after him for beating him with a stick.
Everybody's sue happy.
This is America. Anybody can sue anybody.
It's true.
Yeah, it looks like it's not a good neighborhood. I'm reading about
Are
it.
you looking at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then further
So-
down in this little things, in this list of factoids, it is described as a stronghold for the Democratic Party.
There you go.
Imagine
Why was
that.
anybody in that
What were we
neck
talking
of the
about
woods?
earlier?
23
You knew about
years
this, didn't you,
old
Mike?
at
Like
2 in
the
the morning.
bottom line is that I'm just thankful she had her firearm on her person.
yeah.
That is so huge. So many people go to the effort to get it, and then it's not
And
all
it
that
was
comfortable
loaded.
to carry.
And it was
and, yeah,
loaded.
and she was loaded and she was ready. And she
She
did
could
what
have
she
had
needed
the
to do.
clip in their purse and along with the gun.
A what?
I mean, the
Clip.
The holster.
Yeah, she had an M1 Garand.
I call it a clip.
It's
What
a
do you
clip
call it?
with an M1
What do you
Garand.
call it?
I call it a clip too.
That's what I call it. What do you call it?
Magazine.
Not a magazine. It's something you read. I'm talking about a clip.
We'll talk
All
later.
right. Awesome. Well, Desi, congratulations. We got to go.
Hey, the fight for the Second Amendment is also happening in Orange County and Inland Empire. Orange County gun owners and Inland Empire gun owners leads the fight on the city and county level to defend and protect your Second Defense rights. How do they do it? They do it by fundraising and getting local pro-gun candidates elected. Become a member today. Go to iegunowners.com/join. Or if you're in Orange County, that's ocgunowners.com/join. And join the growing number of responsible gun owners stepping up to defend our Second Amendment rights. That's iegunowners.com or ocgunowners.com.
Winners, prizes, and events. Subscribe and win. Subscribe to our email list and win some swag. This week's winner is Larry Olds. Congratulations, Larry. All you got to do is email prizes@gunownersradio.com to claim your t-shirt or your hat. If you would like to subscribe for the possibility of winning something cool, then go to gunownersradio.com and subscribe to our email list, and you could win something cool as well. Gun Prom. This is the last week to get your Gun Prom tickets. In fact, the sales end at midnight on the 8th, which is Friday night, right? Friday night's the 8th? Yeah. So go to gunprom.com. Gun Prom, if you don't know what Gun Prom is, the Second Amendment celebration dinner. San Diego County Gun Owners has their big gala once a year where we celebrate the Second Amendment. You could win a gun. You could meet a bunch of movers and shakers, elected officials, all kinds of important people. And you're going to have a really, really good time. Tickets are $150, and those $150 individual tickets come with a $50 opportunity ticket prize package. So you could win a gun. So go to gunprom.com, sign up to get tickets. Again, it's end of ticket sales are the 8th, this Friday. It's the 16th is when Gun Prom is. It's in Mission Valley at Town and Country. So join us. Let's see. All right. So, by the way, John Farnham. That's who first said that. The instructor, John Farnham. The don't go, Alicia, don't go stupid places at stupid times and do stupid things with stupid people.
But didn't he also throw in like and be in bed by 10 o'clock?
I don't know.
No, that's what we do.
That might have been John Correa that threw that part in. But anyway, I just reached out to John and said, hey, who's the first one to say that? And it was John Farnham. Anyway, so we just talked to Desi last hour on the huge accomplishment with Not Me. We're over 1,000 women who've applied, over 1,000 women who've completed the program. Congratulations. And Alicia, of course, did a curtain call on an extremely important example of and I think it was really appropriate that it came from Chicago because, like I said, Chicago has been one of the worst. Chicago, the city, has probably been at least as bad, but probably worse than California when it comes to guns. So to see stories, especially a story of a young woman who was able to defend herself against multiple attackers, armed attackers, and she is alive thanks to the fact that she not only had a firearm, but also had a permit. I thought that was a great segment.
I was going to say that Chicago at least is waking up because they voted out their mayor, Lightfoot. She's out now, and so now there's going to be a new candidate for mayor. So hopefully some changes can come about, and that's positive for Chicago.
I saw that. I don't know if they're going to. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm crossing my fingers. I can only cross my fingers and hope.
Is there so are they in the middle of an election right now?
Yeah, this year they're going to be selecting a new mayor. She was trying to run for re-election and she didn't even make it.
Yeah, I know.
So,
She's horrible.
Yeah.
Was there a candidate that you like that you're following?
Nope, not a single one I liked. What a surprise. But
Chicago.
You know what? Change is necessary for Chicago right now, no matter what it is. So hopefully, again, we'll see Chicago in the upright, but I have big doubts still. So.
Chicago is the origin of the term "vote early and vote often." That's how corrupt Chicago is. And I'm pretty nonpartisan. I've been really slamming the Democrats and the way they run things today, and Chicago is such a great example of a Democrat-run city, and they're just doing a horrible job. So, our guest this hour, Jim Miller. How are you?
Doing good, Mike. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Jim Miller, who is a founding board member of San Diego County Gun Owners.
Yep, one of the OGs.
One of the OGs. How long have you been you've been a Republican for?
Well, so
like your whole life.
I was introduced into the official party when I was 18 years old. Ernie Dronenberg, who then was on the state California Franchise Tax Board.
Yep.
I went to school with his daughter, and then through junior state and other things I did in high school, Ernie gave me that introduction into the formal party back in 1988.
Yep.
So been around since then.
And been a gun advocate, passionate about the Second Amendment, passionate about guns pretty much your whole life as well, right?
Oh yeah, way before then. So I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family, with firearms, a hunting family, and started shooting when I was 6.
So there's a couple things we want to talk about when we get into the segments after the break here. A couple things we want to talk about because there's really a lot to talk to you about. One of the things we want to talk about is those who have heard the Miller case. It's no coincidence. That's Jim Miller right here. He's the named plaintiff on the Miller case. That's the assault weapons case. And I think we're going to see some movement on that. We're not going to talk about it right now, but that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I want to talk about the Miller case. Why are you the plaintiff? Or one of the plaintiffs, how did you come to be on that case? Your gun advocacy, that sort of thing. But then the other thing we want to talk about is the amazing success. The whole point of San Diego County Gun Owners, what makes us a little bit different from everybody else, is we're trying to get Second Amendment advocates onto local boards and councils. And the other organizations just don't have the bandwidth to dig down deep into the grassroots and get people onto school boards and city councils, that sort of thing. And here you are, founding board member, ran for school board, Cajon Valley, won, and are not just doing a good job, doing a great job. Made some huge accomplishments in Cajon Valley, and we want to talk about that. And I think we're going to talk about, you made some great things happen since you got on the board, because you're a good guy and you're a smart guy and you have a lot of experience. But I also want to talk about, some of these decisions that were made from a gun advocate's perspective.
Oh yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then I think, people kind of wonder, well, and they'll ask, and I think a lot of it's sincerity. Well, why do we need a gun advocate on a school board? And then, why do we need a gun advocate who's the mayor of my town? And I think that your story is a perfect example of the advantage of having, obviously they still need to be qualified, smart, and, make good decisions, which you are. You're an attorney by trade.
You want them to be qualified. You hope that they're qualified.
Yeah.
Some candidates and some actual members of various boards, as we all know, their qualifications may be a little questionable, but they still end up getting elected.
Well, they do, and that's one of the things. A lot of people ask, "Well, gee, why didn't you endorse so and so rather than the person you endorsed?" Every race, somebody, something like that. And I tell them, look, they'll say, so and so is a huge Second Amendment advocate. Why didn't you endorse this person? They are a huge Second Amendment advocate. They are sincerely all about the Second Amendment. But if we get somebody on, if we endorse somebody who isn't going to do what they need to do to win, like you did what you needed to do to win, and once they're on the board, if they're not going to do a good job, it could actually end up doing more damage than good. So that's why, we don't just qualify. Just not that, hey, you like guns? Great, you're going to get our endorsement. No, you have to be a quality candidate as well.
No, we do an outstanding job, I think, of our vetting when we go to endorse candidates. What's their viability? Are they going to win? When they win, are they going to be successful in their role? Because as you said, if you win and you're a Second Amendment candidate, or you're a Second Amendment candidate, right, and advocate, but then you do a poor job in the overall job, that doesn't help us.
Exactly right.
Hey, is there a better tool that empowers a woman to defend against an attacker?
No.
That's bigger and stronger?
Nope.
That's why it's so important for women to learn how to defend themselves with the most effective self-defense tool ever invented for women led by women. The Not Me program is designed to help with training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And guess what? It's totally free. Sign up, go to notmesd.org.
All right, we're back with Jim Miller.
Mike?
So, like I said, I want to talk about your Second Amendment advocacy. So, before we get into the Miller case, so why did you join San Diego County Gun Owners as a founding board member?
Other than you calling me and saying, "Hey, Jim, I have this really great idea, and I think we should put this together," and then me buying fully into it because it was, in fact, a great idea. The concept between San Diego County gun owners and being local, and I'm a lifetime NRA member.
Yep.
And I think a lot of our board members and other supporters were involved with the NRA, but realizing in politics how the NRA does not help us locally, right? They're very good at coming in and asking us for money, and then it's typically a national issue or a campaign that's outside of San Diego County and quite often outside of California. Mm-hmm. The concept of staying local, the concept of, Jim, the water board guy is going to run for city council at some point, and when he goes from city council, he's going to go to state assembly, and then when he goes from state assembly, he might bounce back to county supervisor or go up to state senate, and they all start so local. If you have an educated, forget about for a moment advocacy, but if you haven't educated them on the Second Amendment, if you haven't educated them on firearm safety, they're going to get their education from someplace,
Yep.
and typically that is an anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun safety organization, whether it's Everytown or Moms Demand Action or whatever. It's going to come from the other side, and then by the time they can get to a point where they can cause a problem, which is typically city council or then certainly at the state level,
Yeah.
they're so influenced, you can't even have that conversation with them logically and factually. They've bought into the dogma on the other side.
And before San Diego County Gun Owners, they did a good job. It wasn't like, hey, we're the Brady organization, the anti-gun folks. It was, hey, I'm your local gun safety advocate, and so what I want to do is make sure you fully understand the concept behind how we're going to keep kids safe by taking away everybody's guns and rights. You know what I mean? Well, how do I argue with that? And there was nothing to offset it. And I think, you've seen, once you're in an elected position, especially, I'd say at least school board, but water board, school board, fire board, once you're in an elected position, it is enormously easier to run for higher office than someone who just, maybe they're running a business or whatever. Anything else they're doing, for some reason, donors, people that endorse, party, organizations are much more comfortable with somebody who's won an election.
It comes down to
Right.
the viability issue. Are you viable? Have you had people put your name down on a ballot before? And if you are, you have a better opportunity to gain the appropriate support to move forward to win other elections.
And that's the concept right there. Yep. That's really the foundation for San Diego County Gun Owners. So when we came to you and said, hey, we're going to put together a board, we're going to do this thing, did you think it was going to succeed?
I thought we had a fair to middling chance in San Diego based upon the overall support, the number of gun owners, the number of people who are interested in the concept, and the passion of our leader, which is you, to make sure that we were unapologetically pro-Second Amendment, and whatever the other issues were, there were no other issues. We were a Second Amendment organization. And that focus, whether that ruffled some feathers in one side or the other, is irrelevant because it made us successful. And nobody can argue the success with the thousands of members that we currently have, the support that we've gained in the industry, and that the fact that when we put a candidate now forward and they say, you're endorsed by the San Diego County Gun Owners Political Action Committee, that is a legitimate endorsement that frankly, other organizations need to pay attention to. They're like, well, if the gun owners is on board, this person's viable. If this person's viable, we need to maybe reevaluate or have them come on because we want to be part of success. Everybody wants to be part of a team that's winning, and right now we're winning.
Yeah, and, if you what we wanted to make sure of is if someone was running and they weren't endorsed by us, they knew they were going to have to work harder. When that work could be they were going to have to get more volunteers, they're going to have to raise more money. If you go, well, shoot, if I don't get this organization's endorsement, I'm going to have to raise an extra, $200,000. That's a huge consideration. $200,000 doesn't just fall off trees or whatever.
Not absolutely. And on the local boards, I mean, $5,000 can tilt the difference.
Oh yeah, on the local board, yeah. $200,000 would be like a supervisor,
right? Supervisor, state senate, something like that. But yeah, on a local board, on a water board, $500 can make a difference. On a school board, $5,000, depending upon size of the district, $5,000 to $10,000 makes a huge difference. So
okay, so that was the concept. We just really wanted to beat that into the ground. That hey, we're trying to get people elected. But what came along, starting San Diego County Gun Owners, we had a number of a whole spectrum of feedback from other organizations. Some of the national organizations didn't want anything to do with us, and some of them really embraced us. Most of them just kind of said, "Hey, good luck, see you later. Do your thing. Play your part on the field. We're going to do ours." And but Firearms Policy Coalition really stepped up and said, "Great, we're gonna do what we do really, really well. We want you guys to do what you do really, really well. And if there's an opportunity for us to work together, we're going to do it." And it took a couple of years to figure out exactly how to work together effectively, but we did it. We figured it out.
Yeah.
So they organized the lawsuits, and then we helped them organize the lawsuits. Sometimes we do a little fundraising. They do the lion's share of the funding of the lawsuits and organizing. But one thing we're really, really good at is making sure that they have plaintiffs,
right?
And making sure that they have amicus briefs, and making sure that So for the first time in U.S. history, a lawsuit that was trying to strike down an assault weapons ban or that type of ban had a victory. Was the Miller case. That was the first time in U.S. history that we had a victory.
Well, like I said, we're a winning team.
Yep. So what can you tell us about you being Miller?
Yeah, that's me.
What can you tell us about can you give us an update or?
Sure. So first of all, I want to thank all the other plaintiffs, right? My name just happened to come up first, I suppose, on the draw, so it comes to my name, and I'm very proud to carry that banner.
And by the way, if you're a member of San Diego County Gun Owners, you're a plaintiff in the Miller case. You're making history because we're San Diego County Gun Owners in general is a plaintiff, but we like to put a person as the named plaintiff because that's a story. That's a real story. You're a real person. You're a real respectable pillar of society who serves on a school board, and your rights are being violated. So we always put a name first. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean the assault weapons definition affects me. We had to put the block on my M4. We had to do a number of different things. Being on the school board helps. Being an attorney by trade, I think, helps. Being a longtime CCW holder helps. I'm somewhat vetted, right, to be the plaintiff or one of the plaintiffs. So I was proud to be able to sit on the board and take the shot as the plaintiff.
Plus, your last name's Miller, so to be on the Miller case, it fit perfectly.
It worked out. I mean, it's like they wrote it up for me. Yeah. But no, the update on the case, and I was just talking to our lawyers the other day. So, as we all know, the Bruin case came down out of New York, right? Judge Benitez, or Saint Benitez, decided to have the case rebriefed when it came back to his court after it got kicked back from the Ninth Circuit. And there were 4 rounds. There's been 4 rounds of briefing to go back and around, trying to, again, the state is trying to say there has been, in fact, a traditional restriction on firearms in the country. That's their position because under the Bruin case, that's what they have to prove in order to have an appropriate restriction on a constitutional issue. And some of those briefings, according to the counsel, they're pretty far a stretch to try to make those two things come together. But now that the briefing rounds are done, we expect a decision on the most recent concept here.
Quick.
Anytime.
Anytime.
It could be this week. It could be within 30 days. And I think it's fair to say that a 30 to 60-day window is not unreasonable. I think it'd come down. And once that happens, all right, I fairly believe that given the comments from the bench, we're going to win again. We should win again. There's no reason why we shouldn't. The law got better for us, and we have already won on the old law, on the old establishment. So then we go up to the Ninth Circuit.
And his Benitez, the decision, his first decision, which was favorable,
Absolutely.
was, it was almost cut and paste with the Bruin decision.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that was an accident.
Not at all. And keep in mind that we then went to the Ninth Circuit, and we won at the Ninth Circuit when the state challenged us. We didn't lose at the Ninth Circuit until there was a full in-bank panel.
Right.
And then when it comes back to Benitez's court here in the trial level, now we have Bruin to, again, support where we need to go with it. So Bruin helps us just as we somewhat, in theory, could have helped Bruin by way of the briefing and the arguments. So now we're good to go. Bobby Bonta and Gavin Newsom should be very, very worried about how this is going to turn out, and I can't wait till the next press conference. I always like it when they say my name. We say in athletics, make them say your name. Well, Gavin Newsom says my name every now and again. So
I just had an image of you watching the press conference going, say my name. Say it. Say my name.
100%, buddy. 100%.
It's not his fault anyway.
Right?
So what, I think this is going to, basically, I think we're going to have to, or we'll be able to get rid of all the stupid stuff we got to do to our semi-automatic rifles. I don't think we're going to have to do fins anymore. We're not going to have to do the juggernaut thing. And all this stuff's going to go away.
Fins, the whole nonsense, the pinning of magazines, however you've been working around the issue. And then, of course, we have the Duncan case, right? So we'll get our standard 30-round capacity magazines. For those that didn't buy them during Freedom Week, we'll be able to start using those as well.
And you didn't even hesitate when approached and said, "Hey, we're looking for plaintiffs." There was zero hesitation. You said, "Yeah, let's jump on this."
No, I was pretty much as fast as I could say yes. I was in.
But you weren't worried about. There was none of this. Well, gee, I got to get reelected. I'm on a school board, and you guys, listeners, you would be shocked. The toughest, loudest, supposed pro-Second Amendment people, when I'm talking to them one-on-one, their feet are so cold. They got all kinds of excuses. Not Jim. Jim was like, yeah, let's do this yesterday, right now, get it done.
And I was happy to do it. But that comes from my background, right? I'm used to having people disagree with me, and let's jump in and make it happen.
Yeah, and you do an excellent, excellent job.
Hey, a lot of companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing. The design is excellent, the photos are beautiful, and your website looks great, but it's not getting customers. Why? Because you don't have the words that make people buy. But now you can fix that with Sage Street. Sage Street can help you find the words that make it easy for your customers to understand what you do and how to buy from you. Stop wasting money today and schedule a call. Getting started is super easy. Visit SageTree.com and click on the Schedule an Appointment button. That's SageTree.com and click on the Schedule a Call button.
Dave, my new obsession with watches?
It's I already seen you nailed it.
Yeah, did you see it? Did you see what's on his wrist?
The Timex.
He's an Omega man.
It's a Timex.
It's not a time. It is not a Timex,
Yes,
Dave.
it is. It's a decal.
All right.
It's a fancy time.
Yeah, it's a decal.
There we go.
So we're talking to Jim Miller, founding board member of San Diego County Gun Owners. Of course, the Miller assault weapons ban case that we're going to win and mop the floor with Gavin Newsom's shiny hair. So let's talk about one of the things. So you're on a school board. I just think that's absolutely. I can't tell you. I think 10 years ago when I'm hanging out with all the other Second Amendment advocates and it's like a dream case. Like, oh, we should file a lawsuit. The main guy should be like a school board member. Wouldn't that be great? You know what I mean?
Perfect.
Here it is.
Yep.
So talk about the school board. What inspired you? You've been involved. You've been very involved. Not just like, hey, I watch Fox News and complain. Like, you're involved in politics and have been for a while. What inspired you to run for school board?
And what district?
So it's Cajon Valley Union School District, El Cajon, Rancho San Diego. We have 16,000 kids, 27 schools. We're the largest employer in the East County. We have over 2,300 employees. Avant-garde, as far as our superintendent, exceptionally intelligent individual. Before I came on, we hired him. COVID hit. We had the blip. every kid in our school district was already working off of technology, take-home Chromebooks. So if you were third grade or above, you already knew how to work off of a playlist that your teacher had given you. And then from kindergarten through second grade, we just had to give you Chromebooks, and we were off and running. There were other districts that didn't have that capability. Even those that had technology weren't taking them home. That's a very big difference when you're allowing a kid to take an iPad home, or in our case, a Chromebook. So David Mirashiro, who is our superintendent, was well ahead of that curve, as long as he was planning for COVID. And then we were the largest public school district in the state of California that stayed open during COVID with the waiver system. So March 16th, the world shut down. We went into spring break. We had a meeting. The only hotel that would allow us to have a meeting of 200 people was the Marriott down in Coronado. We had a 3-day meeting with our presidents of our teachers union, presidents of our classified union, their representatives, all of our admin staff, all of our top admins, and some consultants who came in. Like, how can we make this happen? How can we keep schools open? Because in the East County, I'd like to say that the East County is still America, right? So we still want to get things done appropriately. And we came up with a plan. And that plan at that point in time, because the state had us locked down, was obviously a distance learning plan. But we opened our entire facilities, every facility we could, for essential worker daycare, which the state had obligated to school districts, but other school districts didn't do. So if you were a firefighter, you were a police officer, you were a nurse, you were in the medical field, even if your kid didn't go to Cajon Valley schools, they could come to our daycare and be educated, because they could take part with our technology and what our learning lists were at that time. 3 meals a day. We had drive-through meals at all of our sites, 3 meals a day. Whether you were in our district or not, if you looked like you were under 18 years old, you're getting a meal from us. Exactly.
So you did a great job with COVID. I really do think that COVID in general, there are so few elected officials who are serving during COVID who I think should be reelected. I mean, so few. There were so many that did absolutely nothing or were counterproductive during COVID. And here, you were definitely one of the people that proved your mettle.
Oh, Mike, it drives me absolutely nuts, because when it comes to the education of students, they talk about this learning loss, right? These kids that they didn't get socialized, they had this learning loss, they couldn't play sports. That was another thing that I was able to put back together with a coalition of people to put sports back for our kids, countywide, by the way, for that one. But learning loss doesn't happen unless you just sit on your hands. And we didn't. At Cajon Valley, we led that fight, and we got kids back in school. And then one last thing I'm going to make this point is, that summer, you couldn't have summer school, right? Schools were shut down. But you could have camps, right? The state said you could have camps. So what did we do at Cajon Valley?
You just had a big old camp.
Summer school became Camp Cajon. And we had 6,000 kids on campus, as a proof of concept that if we used the funds received from the federal government and we did our distance spacing and we did our PPE and everything else, we had 1 transmission to COVID, 1 out of 6,000 kids in 2.5 months.
Right. See, now, let me just point something out, Dave. So I'm sitting there talking to Jim about how mad I am at government officials, and he is still focused on kids. He's still saying, hey, you know what? I wanted to make sure the kids can learn. Wanted to make sure they didn't fall behind. Here I am. I'm just mad, And Jim's still like, you know what?
You have two choices.
His focus is kids.
Get mad or get the job done.
Absolutely.
That's what Jim did.
Especially with government, I think it's more fun to figure out how to get around their stupidity.
Oh yeah, work the problem, and that comes. You asked me in the first session, how does a Second Amendment guy work on a government board? How many times in the Second Amendment do we have to work around the stupid laws that the state of California has put on us? And we get around them all the time, right? You just have to be a little bit creative, and you have to have people, though, around you that are willing to do so. So David Mirashiro, our cabinet, and again, I have nothing but positive things to say about even the union leadership in our district, that we all came together and we pushed in the same direction. And when you push in the same direction and you don't care about who gets the credit, things get done.
Can you fix a Padre game? Padres?
My background is a professional sports agent. I may have some concepts on that.
You could do that.
So let's talk about those. So as a Second Amendment advocate, one of the other important things that, of course, affects a school that has a lot of overlapping circles with Second Amendment advocacy is security. Talk about the enormous, because you guys were leaders in COVID.
Yep.
You guys are also enormous leaders when it comes to security.
Absolutely. So I was on the plane. I was at a conference. We were lecturing and presenting at a conference 4 years ago in Florida. I got on the plane just as Parkland happened, the Parkland shooting happened. When I got elected, I had already talked about moving forward with our safety and security protocols. What do we need to do? How do we need to revamp this? Because in the East County, we have had 2 high school shootings that are fairly well known, the Santana shooting and the Grand Hills shooting. Now, this was back in the 90s. And I will, again, for those of you on the radio, I will remind you that despite the media hype from the left, your students are safer in school today per capita than in the 1990s.
Absolutely.
People do not understand the way that statistic breaks down. It's just because the media cycle, with social media in particular, can put what's happening on your Facebook page, on your Twitter page right now, does not mean that it's more than it traditionally is. You're actually safer today. So what happens, we come back from Florida, the Parkland shooting happens, we're already in process. Luckily, because I'm on the board, and I'm on the board with some very specialized, understanding people in the Second Amendment world, in the defensive combat and defensive handgun world, former military, and I reached out to Mike. I said, Mike, who's on a board that can really give us a tutorial on how to keep kids safe? Yeah. And we reached out to some other school districts and said, who have you used? And between those 2 backgrounds, we pulled one from our own to train not just teachers and staff, but students. That was an element that no other school district had ever done. It's not just duck and cover 1982 because you're worried about the nuclear bomb going off. I didn't realize that the desk was actually a nuclear bomb shelter, by the way, when I was 12. But nonetheless, training the students as to how to act, where to go. And then we brought on a gentleman named Ryan Love, former San Diego Sheriff, El Cajon PD, District Attorney Investigator, to become our head of safety and security, which we didn't have that position. And Ryan's relationships with our law enforcement community, sheriffs in El Cajon PD who keep our kids safe, phenomenal. We then went on the barnstorming tour, and spoke at all 6 of our middle schools to the community about what we were doing and how we were doing it. So we went from a facilities look to a personnel look. Facilities, as an example, you want to save money when you're a government agency, or you should, right? So you put these lights on that if you walk in and walk out of a room, the light turns on and off. Well, if you're in a lockdown situation and there's an active shooter and you move and the light turns back on, that's bad, right? Nobody thinks about that. But that was something that we came up with, that was just next level concept. Finding the safe wall. Which teacher, where's your safe wall? Well, people think that we want to be as far away from the front door as is possible, right? Because if somebody starts shooting it, well, that's not true, and I'm not going to tell anybody who the safe wall is unless you've been trained. So we worked through all of those. So we now work off of what's called the ALICE program. Most people know, fight,
run, hide, fight.
Run, hide, fight. We don't do that.
Not anymore.
No, because a lot of the problem is you can't, unless you're trained, the fight component is not going to ever materialize.
Right.
And that's a lot of people to train on that concept, especially teachers and personnel staff, so we don't do that. So we use the ALICE protocol. I'm not going to go through that. It's take way too long. We don't have enough time on the rest of the show. But it is a next step level program on how we, again, train our staff and train our kids. So if you're a substitute teacher and you're at one of our elementary schools, and then you're going to be a substitute teacher on one of our middle schools, and you're going to be a substitute teacher at another school, the programs are all the
same protocol.
Exactly, the protocols are completely.
And I don't think people realize. What's your budget? I mean,
$300 million.
$300 million.
Yeah, you do not want to put somebody on a school. I'm just going to make this advocate statement because I know that there's a lot of people that want to run for school boards and want to run for water boards, want to do other things in the government, and you should. At the same point in time, understand the concept. You are running a budget in my district of almost $300 million. Right? If you're not in business, if you have not operated that way, if you don't understand contracts, I'm not saying you have to be a lawyer. I mean, I have that background. I'm lucky. I have an undergraduate degree from San Diego State in finance. I'm lucky. I worked for Wells Fargo Bank, which I think Mike did as well at one point, going through law school. I have some background that helps in this area, but understand what you're getting involved with. When people say you overspend because you spent $5,000 on food for your staff, and your budget's $300 million, no, $5,000 for a staff of several hundred, depending on circumstances, is actually a reasonable circumstance. At the same point in time, you turn around, you look at San Diego Unified's budget. I looked at that because I was on another news set today about them. Almost $2 billion is their budget.
It's enormous.
$2 billion.
Well, because it's not their money.
But
exactly. So they just run through it like it's crazy.
But 300 million. I mean, I think that's like a bigger. I think that's bigger than like the city of Santee.
Oh yeah, it's big. It's bigger than the city of Santee and the city of El Cajon combined. I said we're the largest employer in the
So
East
a
County.
lot of people, I think that school boards get overlooked. And,
They do.
And you just kind of like whatever. We'll just the head of the PTA or whoever, like just whatever. You guys are dealing with a much bigger budget than like I said, the mayor of Santee and the mayor of El Cajon combined.
You
Right,
got
and
the
it's
right
huge.
people in the right place. You got to be a businessman or a woman.
It helps.
You got to understand finance.
Right.
And you got to be proactive, not reactive.
Very true. I mean, look at what we do, right? What do we do on a school board? One, we are educating kids, we're keeping them safe.
Right.
However, but on the business side of the school board, right? Business side, curriculum, right? So you should be educated about how do you do curriculum. I've written our PE curriculum, I've written history curriculum, and our civics curriculum. I've actually helped physically do those things, which
All right.
I'm
now
very excited about.
We just got to get him his own radio.
Exactly. So the safety thing. But one more thing before we go to break.
No, go ahead.
The security thing.
Yes, very
Do
important.
you think?
And we're redoing that right now, by the way.
Do you think that somebody from the Brady organization would have done as good a job? You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, they would have.
Of
They would
course
have
not.
said everybody run and hide.
Yeah, well,
but they're reactive.
let's have a resolution to ban guns. Or
Yeah,
whatever,
and there's another thing. They would have been political about it instead of active about it.
And you're up for re-election next year, right?
Yeah, 2024, one more term.
Do you
All
have
right,
a?
you're already voted in.
Do you have a website or anything up yet, or not yet?
Yeah, the website I think is still stayed up from the last one. I think it's a Miller for Cajon Valley School Board, or maybe my daughter who's sitting in the background can look at that on her smartphone
Okay,
and tell me where we're at with it.
All right, well, hang out because we're going to have him ask the question.
I don't think we need to do any more commercials. Hey, guess what? Gun prom tickets are still on sale. You better hurry. Join San Diego County gun owners and the rest of the Second Amendment community at the Town and Country in Mission Valley. Get your fancy suits and dresses ready and join our like-minded people that believe in the right to self-defense. Second Amendment dinner is coming up on September 16th. Get your tickets now and reserve your spot for a night with great people, great food, drinks, for all a great cause. Go to gunprom.com. Get your tickets now. Buy a table, bring a friend or family. That's gunprom.com and buy your tickets today.
All right, it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. Years ago, we found out that my young, talented, handsome nephew is really good at gun trivia. So we started asking people to write in and send us your questions. And he doesn't get to see the questions prior. And if you stump my nephew, you will get a very cool prize. I think this week we're going to give away some gun prom tickets. But if you just write in and we use your question on the radio, of course we'll give you a hat or a shirt, whatever you like there. Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good, man. How are you?
Not bad.
All right, good to hear. Okay, so we have a special guest that's going to read you your question. You've heard of the assault weapons case that we're a part of, the Miller case?
Oh, yeah, everyone's heard about that.
Well, Jim Miller of Miller fame is going to read you your question.
Are we ready for this?
Yeah, that's really special. I didn't know you had the actual Miller on the show. That's
right.
Very cool.
It's Miller time.
Little stress.
There we go. All right, here's our question on the Stump My Nephew. What was the first sporting cartridge loaded exclusively with smokeless powder?
What was the first Well, first off, who wrote that in?
Right up above it. Brett from San Diego.
Brett from San Diego, thanks very much for writing in. What was the first sporting cartridge loaded exclusively with smokeless powder? This one is fairly easy, so I'm going to work my way up to it because it's one of those ones where either you know it or you don't. For those of you who don't know, smokeless powder is very, very different in formulation from black powder. Black powder is comparatively easy to make. It's been around since more than 1,000 years ago, as far as I'm aware. Black powder just consists of only 3 ingredients: potassium nitrate, charcoal, and sulfur. So it's consequently it's very easy to make. But smokeless powder requires a lot more advanced chemistry, and it didn't come around until the 1880s. The desirable characteristics it provides are its burn rate increases dramatically with pressure, which makes it work better with shorter barrels. And of course, the fact that it's smokeless gives a huge advantage in military uses. But the first time it came around into civilian hands, exclusively civilian cartridges, was with the 30-30 Winchester.
How about that, Jim? Is
That was amazing.
That's my nephew.
See how
dude.
we're not impressed?
No.
That's my nephew. He's like 7 years old or something. I don't know.
No, he's been like
something
that
like
since
that.
he was 7.
Release. Go ahead.
It's a really fascinating intersection between the area we study, firearms history, and a sort of mainstream science that everyone knows about, chemistry. And also with broader military history as a whole, because the advent of smokeless powder had serious ramifications for the way entire wars were fought. The machine gun could not exist without smokeless powder because it produces so much less fouling. Hiram Maxim tried to invent a machine gun before it, but it didn't really work properly. So it was only after smokeless powder that could happen.
Look at this guy.
Wow.
I know, right? Released in 1895. I'm going to read the answer, but I don't even know if I need
Go
to.
for it.
Released in
Go for it.
1895, just a year after the popular 1894 Winchester lever gun was introduced, the 30-30 Winchester was the first sporting cartridge loaded exclusively with smokeless powder. The original 30-30 Winchester load had a 160-grain round-nosed bullet, leaving the muzzle at 1,970 feet per second, a substantial step up from other popular cartridges of the time, like the 32-40 Winchester. The cartridge's speed and power, combined with the lever action's capacity and quickness, made it an instant hit as a deer cartridge. Before long, it became a go-to choice for deer hunters. There you go, man. Excellent job. Excellent lecture as always, combining firearms with history and the subject that everybody knows about, chemistry. I like how he said that.
Right.
You know, everybody knows about chemistry.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I know about chemistry.
I also like how Sam was like starstruck by Jim today. I thought that was super cute. Sam, do you want to say anything
I
to
get starstruck
Mr.
by
Miller? And are you a big fan of his or something? Or silence.
Hello?
Where'd
Is
you
he
go,
there?
Sam?
That was like me in chemistry. That was my nephew.
She wanted to know. She just liked the fact that you were impressed that Miller's here. Do you, anything to say to Jim at all about his case at all?
No, I mean, I guess everything that's out there in the news and the firearms news has already covered it. I don't have any specific questions, but all I can say is kudos to you. With a lot of these cases, someone's got to be the plaintiff. Someone's got to be the one who makes an issue about it, or else nothing gets done. And I'm very proud that people are standing up to do something about it, especially in California.
Glad to do it.
Excellent. Your blog, the other thing that Sam does for us, he writes about a blog a week for us. So you have a blog up this week?
I don't have a blog post up this week, but I will have one up, bright and early for you guys tomorrow.
Okay, excellent.
You're
Want to give
3 time zones behind me.
Will you give us a preview? What's the subject?
No, this one's actually late breaking. It has to do with very current news, so I don't want to give away too much.
All right. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, great, Sam. Excellent job as always, my friend. Thank you for knocking it out of the park. I'm going to get a text from your mom here in about 20 minutes, gloating. So I look forward to that every time you get one right. So congratulations.
Well, as always, thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
What do you think, man? What do you think of my nephew?
Oh, I mean, if there was a way to gamble on that and be in Vegas, he'd be my Rain Man right there.
Yes. Yes, he's like the Rain Man of firearms trivia.
Awesome.
Yes, he's a good dude. He's a really good dude. His articles, he does a fantastic job. Between him and Joe Jamisi, we have found, some of the best Second Amendment content authors on the internet. They do just such a fantastic job. So,
And he works at a gun store, if you can imagine.
not anymore.
That would make sense.
Not anymore. No, it was just kind of a side gig for him. He's finishing up
doing
college.
now?
He's
Oh,
finishing
college.
up college. Yeah. So
But he does fly a plane. Excuse me.
Yeah, he flies.
He flies planes. He also actually the other thing he's doing is he's actually making some money off of some of his writing. John Petrolino has introduced him to a couple folks.
Oh, fine.
So his exposure from writing for us has gotten him a couple of paid
Until they
gigs.
find out how old he is.
Leatherneck Magazine. He's done some really great articles for Leatherneck Magazine. So yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's really.
So Jim, anything else? What else would you like people to? Any other message you want to get out to the legions of people listening to us?
Yeah, or anything you need them to do to help you.
Well, when it comes down to obviously any sort of vote in a grassroots type of situation, we're talking about an area of Rancho San Diego. I'm in Area 5 out of the Cajon Valley District because years ago we went to areas instead of district-wide voting. The website is up. Again, it's not updated since the last election, but it's millerforschoolboard.com, and we'll be adding content to that once the full-blown kind of election.
Is Alpine in your area?
Alpine is not in our area. It's just outside of Cajon Valley. But we do have a ton of kids from Alpine that come into, especially at Blossom Valley and LCC, our middle school.
Well, see,
there.
now you explained why our restaurants went crazy during COVID, because we didn't abide by anything.
Right.
But all you doorknobs kept coming up from El Cajon Valley and coming to our restaurants.
There you go.
I mean,
You're welcome.
parking lots were full. I mean, it's terrible.
So let me ask you: give somebody, we got about 38 more seconds here. What advice would you give to someone? They have a daughter and they want that daughter to be a crack shot. How do you raise a superstar shooter of a daughter?
Well, I think the first concept, in my daughter, who's in the radio room with us here, is fantastic. She's an amazing shooter. First, it starts off with gun safety. It starts off with a BB gun. It starts off then with a .22. She went straight to a Walther P22, so she got used to an automatic handgun and how to function with an automatic handgun. Then we went to AR 1522 by Smith & Wesson, so she could work on the AR platform. And now she can pretty much rock and roll with anything you put in her hand. She's amazing.
She's been a James Bond
She's
fan.
like Jane Wick.
Oh, if you want to put a Glock 19 in her hand, look out.
You're looking.
Yeah, the girl can run.
All right, folks. Hey, Jim, thank you very much for coming in. It was an awesome show.
Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for watching this episode from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns and the Second Amendment. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just do a search for Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Click on the links in the show notes and support the businesses that support your Second Amendment rights. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.